Have you ever done the math on your own bank account at 2 in the morning? Phone brightness turned all the way down so it doesn't wake anyone, just to confirm the number you already knew was too small? Here's what I'm about to show you. A single rule, practiced in the first 60 minutes of the day. That took a man from $340 in his checking account to running a 6-figure business in 14 months without a raise, without a lottery ticket, without a rich uncle. But here's the part almost nobody talks about. The rule itself is stupidly simple. What's hard is the reason most people quit on day 4. Stay with me, because that reason is probably the exact thing that's kept you stuck too. Before I continue, I want you to do one thing. Hit subscribe and drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching this from. I read every single one, and I want to know exactly who's about to change their life this year. Okay, let's get into it. Marcus DeLuca was 29 years old and living in a 900-square-foot rental in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the kind of apartment where the radiator clanked at 6 a.m. Whether you asked it to or not, he worked the overnight restocking shift at a regional grocery chain, clocking in at 10 p.m. and clocking out at 6 a.m., $16.75 an hour, no benefits after the first 90 days because the schedule always seemed to shave his hours just under the threshold. He weighed 241 pounds on a 5'10" frame. Not because he didn't care, because by the time his shift ended, breakfast was whatever was fastest, a gas station sausage biscuit eaten in the car with the engine still running. He had $1,140 in credit card debt spread across 2 cards, a 2011 Nissan Altima with 161,000 miles on it, and a habit of falling asleep to his phone at 7 a.m. with 3 tabs open, a job board he never applied through, a crypto app he checked but never touched, and a text thread with his sister he'd left on read for 6 days. He wasn't lazy. He was exhausted in the specific way that comes from doing something for years that never adds up to anything. The moment that cracked things open wasn't a hospital bed. It was a Tuesday afternoon in March, 4 hours after his shift ended, when his 8-year-old nephew Dominic asked him, completely without malice, "Uncle Marcus, why do you always look tired in your pictures?" Marcus laughed it off in the moment, but driving home, the question sat in his chest like a stone. He wasn't just tired in pictures. He was tired in the pattern of his whole life, and an 8-year-old had clocked it before he'd admit it to himself. That same week, his landlord raised the rent $85 a month, effective in 60 days. Marcus did the math 3 times, hoping for a different answer. There wasn't one. Something had to change, and it had to change now, not someday. He didn't have a grand plan. He had one decision, made at 5:47 a.m. on a random Thursday after his shift, sitting in the parking lot instead of driving straight home like always. He decided he would give himself 60 days of doing one specific thing before he was allowed to declare it didn't work. The thing was this. Instead of collapsing into bed the second he walked through the door, he would give himself one focused hour from the moment he woke up in the afternoon, before checking his phone, before eating, before anything, to work exclusively on getting himself out of that shift. He picked 5 p.m. because that was his personal morning, the hour right after he woke from his daytime sleep. The label didn't matter. What mattered was that it was the first hour of his day, protected, before the world got its hooks into him. 3 weeks in, Marcus stumbled across an old interview, not a guru, not a course, just a grainy recorded talk from a semi-retired logistics consultant named Arlen Voss, who'd built and sold 2 trucking companies before the age of 40. Voss said one line that Marcus wrote on a sticky note and stuck to his dashboard. Poverty isn't a lack of money, it's a lack of a system that runs without your motivation. Voss laid out, almost as an aside, the exact structure he'd used to build his first company while still working nights as a dispatcher. Marcus listened to that 14-minute clip 9 times. Then he built his own version of it. Here is the system, broken into 4 rules. Screenshot this if you need to. Rule 1. The 60-minute non-negotiable. Before anything else in your first hour, before your phone, before food, before conversation, you spend 60 uninterrupted minutes on the one skill or asset that will eventually replace your current income. Not admin, not planning, building. Voss's number, people who protect this hour for 90 consecutive days, report a 73% higher completion rate on their stated goal than people who find time when they can. Rule 2. The one asset rule. You are only allowed to work on one income-building asset at a time. Marcus chose freight broker training because Voss's world was logistics, and Marcus already understood trucking schedules from years of overnight deliveries at the store. One asset means no bouncing between 5 half-finished ideas. You finish the first one before you're allowed to start a second. Rule 3. The $2 investment floor. Every single day, you must put some tangible resource, even if it's just $2, or 2 contacts, or 2 pages of study, directly into that one asset. The amount doesn't matter. The unbroken chain does. Marcus used a physical paper calendar taped above his stove and put a red X on every day he made his deposit, however small. Rule 4. The weekly proof report. Every Sunday, you write down one measurable thing that's true this week that wasn't true last week. Not a feeling, a fact. I learned load matching software. I called 3 brokerages. I finished module 4. If you can't write one, that's the week you go back and figure out what broke. Quick pause if you're starting today. Drop a comment with the number 1, 2, 3, or 4 for which rule you're beginning with, so I can see exactly where this community is starting from. The first 2 weeks felt like magic, which should have been Marcus's first warning sign. By week 3, his body rebelled. He'd wake at 4:40 p.m., every joint aching from a double shift the night before, and the last thing he wanted to do was study freight rate calculations. On April 19th, he sat at his kitchen table for the full 60 minutes and didn't open a single file. He just stared at the wall. He wrote in his notebook that night, "Today doesn't count. I know it doesn't count. I'm writing it down anyway." Week 6 was worse. He failed his first practice broker exam, a 61 out of 100, when 70 was passing. He sat in the Nissan afterward for 11 minutes, seriously considering deleting the whole folder of study materials. What stopped him wasn't motivation. It was the calendar on his wall, with 39 red X's on it. He didn't want to be the guy who broke a 39-day chain over one bad test. By week 9, something shifted. Not dramatically, he noticed it in a small, almost boring way. A dispatcher at his old grocery job, overhearing him on a break talking about lane rates, said, "Wait, you actually know this stuff?" Marcus realized he'd stopped performing knowledge and started actually having it. 2 weeks later, he passed his licensing exam with an 84. 14 months from that Thursday in the parking lot, Marcus DeLuca left the overnight stocking shift for good. He was running his own 2-person freight brokerage out of a converted spare bedroom, contracting loads for 6 regional shippers. His first full year of real operation, the business cleared $184,000 in revenue, with roughly $61,000 of that as his actual take-home after expenses, more than triple what the grocery job had ever paid him. He moved into a 2-bedroom apartment 11 minutes from his sister and Dominic. He'd lost 38 pounds, not from a diet plan, but because a man who is building something tends to stop eating like he's just trying to survive the day. The credit cards were paid off in month 9. The sticky note with Arlen Voss's line was still on his desk, laminated now, because Marcus wasn't taking any chances with it fading. Marcus's story was never really about freight brokerage, and it was never really about 5 p.m. or 5 a.m. or any specific clock time at all. It was about the discovery that most people don't fail because they lack ability, they fail because they never protect one single hour from the chaos of everything else demanding their attention. The rule works because it's small enough to survive a bad day, and specific enough that you can't lie to yourself about whether you did it. Everyone has an hour like this, hiding somewhere in their schedule. The only question is whether you'll claim it before life spends it for you. So here's what I want you to do, not eventually, tonight and tomorrow. Tonight, before you go to sleep, pick your 1 hour. Not a vague sometime in the morning, an actual hour, tied to an actual anchor point in your day right when you wake up, right when you get home, right before your first coffee. Write it down somewhere you'll see it. Tomorrow, before you touch your phone, spend that hour building the one asset that could eventually replace your current income, not planning it, not researching 10 options, building the one you already have a reason to believe in. And tomorrow night, tape a calendar somewhere visible and put your first mark on it. 1 mark. That's the whole job for day 1. If this gave you even one thing you're going to actually try, hit that like button. It tells me to make more of these. Comment below with the 1 hour you just chose for yourself. I want to see it in writing so you're accountable to more than just me. If you know somebody who's been talking about starting something for the last year but hasn't moved, send them this video. Sometimes people just need someone else to hand them the first step. And subscribe, because next week I'm breaking down the exact system a woman used to pay off $38,000 in debt using nothing but her lunch break. You don't want to miss that one.